rock you like a hurricane. Here I am, rock you like a hurricane. Sing it with me. Here I am, rock you like a hurricane. Louder. Here I am, rock you like a hurricane. Give ourselves a round of applause. You know, I just love this song. It's so loud and punchy. My grandma thinks it sucks. For her, it's just a mixture of angry rant and loud noise. Well, what about you? Let me ask you a question. How many here like pop music? Okay, and how many here dislike hard rock, punk, that kind of music? Well, I've talked to a lot of people who don't like this kind of music, and they usually give me the same two reasons as to why. The first reason they give me is that rock music sounds like noise. And the second one they give me is that rock songs have depressing, sad, and angry lyrics. And well, while if you think that a type of music sounds like noise, you can just not listen to it, with words, it's different, because words affect our understanding and the way we think. Now, I see some adults in the room, and I want to ask you, how many here have enjoyed listening to rock music in their youth? Yeah, right? So, would you say that rock music of your time sounded dark or aggressive or angry? Yes, no, maybe. It depends on who you listen to. So if you listen to the music of, let's say, Eric Clapton or the Rolling Stones, you probably wouldn't call it dark. But maybe if you listen to the music of, let's say, AC/DC or Black Sabbath, or maybe even some of the newer stuff, you probably would. And some people actually believe that rock music has been getting darker as it was progressing. And some rock musicians are actually blamed for crimes done by their fans because according to the court, their lyrics was provoking and violent. The most famous of this is the Columbine High School shooting that was blamed on the rock artist Marilyn Manson for violent lyrics. And rock musicians are also sometimes blamed for suicides. We know that the suicide rate has increased by 23% since 1999. So is it true? Is rock music actually getting darker? Well, last year when I was working on my linguistic project, I asked this question, and it took me a very long time to find a methodology to answer it. But when I did, it felt like a hard rock was lifted from my back. Well, puns aside, what I finally decided to do in order to answer this question was to create 4 documents, 70s, 80s, 90s, and nowadays, each representing one decade, obviously, and nowadays being anything from 2000s to 2017. Then what I did was to go to Google Play and search for the top 200 rock songs of each decade. Then I took the lyrics of each song and put it in one of the documents accordingly. Now, when I collected all the words, I got 20,000 words of lyrics per document. Now that I got all the collections of lyrics, what I did was to use Ankong, which is a linguistic program, to analyze these big piles of lyrics. So this is how Ankong looks, and it's not very user-friendly, but it's actually really simple to use. So what this program can do is if you enter any document in it and search for any word, it will show you how many times and where that word was used. So let's say I used the document of 70s, and I entered the word love. And I click enter, and I get all the times the word love has been used. So I used this part of the program to find words that have what I call emotional value. Now, what emotional value is a value that goes from -5 to +5. -5 being that a certain word can be only used in dark, violent, angry context. And +5 being the same thing, just the opposite. Well, now that I got all this data, I just collected them together and got this. This is the graph of 70s. Notice that the blue bar represents the bright, happy lyrics, while the red bar represents the dark, angry lyrics. 70s, 80s, 90s. You noticing something? And nowadays. Well, one might ask, what the heck does this mean? I mean, yeah, except of the obvious fact that the blue bar, which represents the bright lyrics, went down, the red bar, which is the dark lyrics, went up, well, increased. It doesn't really say much. And that's what I thought when I finished doing this research. But then I thought, well, what if I try to make my own lyrics? What if I try to use the information I have, let's say the top words used in each decade, in order to make my own lyrics? And this is what I came out with. In the 70s, we would sing, "Oh baby, love your boy," and sing this old funky song. "Death is a play that we watch. Feel it slowly go away." Sounds quite happy, although there is the word death in it. This might suggest that actually in the 70s we already had some darkness in rock music. Well, in the 80s, we would sing, "Oh baby, feel my love. Burn the bad world away. Dream back to our house. Oh, burn the bad world away." Still pretty happy, right? I mean, the word death was actually gone from the 80s for some reason, but overall it's still quite happy. Well, now we're going to go to the 90s, and because this is a TEDx show, we are going to have to leave some of the words for your consideration. "Feel my love die. My dreams getting darker and darker. Fight to kill is my heaven. F my life." Well, that was quite the jump, right? Well, now we sing, "The end is near. My love dying with it. Bodies of dead, feeling alone. F good." And while you can notice that some aspects of the lyrics have changed, like the usage of words baby and boy, some themes have stayed with rock music from 70s to nowadays. Themes like love, and yes, also death, are still a big part of rock music. Well, why did all this happen? Well, in the 90s, there was a big division in rock music, with subgenres like grunge and punk becoming very popular, with bands like Soundgarden, Nirvana, and Green Day and Blink-182. However, there was one genre of music that was a little bit older than the other ones, was darker and more violent than any. This genre is known as metal. Metal music was, as I said, very loud, angry, and was considered to be very violent. It was something new, something unseen. Or was it? Right now, I'm going to show you a person who is considered to be very dangerous, very violent, and very angry. You ready? Now, this for the younger generation is Elvis Presley, who is considered by most to be the inventor of rock and roll. And I want to ask some of the adults, do you remember what your dads or your grandparents said about Elvis Presley? They didn't really like it, did they? Well, what about these guys? Well, these guys were so many times, and were pretty much the kings of underground illegal music. So, but there is another question that comes up. Why did artists like the Beatles, AC/DC, Slayer, Metallica use like such bad words? Well, you have to understand that they did so because there was a message that couldn't be sent by just using the good words. And you also have to look at the other side of the spectrum, because while all these bands were making the bad and darker music, on the other side, pop music was getting happier and happier. And some people argue they got a little bit too happy. So it is true, rock music is indeed getting darker. But you have to understand that we don't go and listen to that music and get sad, depressed, and angry. We feel sad, depressed, and angry. And we listen to that music to relieve ourselves. It's like when you go for a jog when you feel down, or you watch a movie when you want to forget something. It's like meditation. Well, this one has bad words in it. And it doesn't mean that the rock artists that make music are all violent and depressed. They just are open in what they say and have new messages to send. Dark music didn't come because people are getting darker. It came because there's a new message to be sent. And as long as people have a message to send, they will send it, no matter what words they use. Thank you.